Okay, I know I'm probably pretty late to the party here given it's been a few weeks, but I don't care. That was the greatest first episode of an anime I have seen in a long time. I know it's not fair to compare it to other shows given it's 3 times the length, but that's fine. Oshi no Ko is a story by the creator of Kaguya-sama that began in 2021 and has just started its anime adaptation. Now, I didn't know anything about Oshi no Ko going into this first episode, and I recommend everyone else go into this first episode of the show completely blind. All that to state the obvious, but if you haven't watched episode 1 of Oshi no Ko, please watch it and then come back to this video because there will be some heavy spoilers, and this is a story you need to experience without knowing a thing, because that's arguably the best way to experience it. Our story begins with this doctor who works in a hospital far away from the city, and he's watching this idol named Hoshino Ai obsessing over her performances. When he gets asked what about her he loves so much, his reasons were a bit too creepy and descriptive for my liking. We then find out that this idol Ai is taking a long hiatus from her idol group, and this makes our Dr. MC really upset. Admittedly, I was watching the beginning of this episode with a bit of a frown on my face because his obsession with a girl around half his age was sort of rubbing me the wrong way, but we then come to find out he obsesses over this idol named Ai because he had a patient who he was looking after who was really sick, and she was obsessed with Ai herself, them being the same age and all. The young patient then goes on to pass away, and our doctor main character is kind of using Ai as a way to keep that connection with his patient. Still on the side of creepy, this patient is the lock screen of his phone, but I'm not going to get into too many details as it's a bit irrelevant at this point. He then has a new patient coming in wearing a baseball cap, and he starts analyzing her. He notices she's about 20 weeks pregnant and is quite young. As she removes the baseball cap, we find out this mystery patient ends up being Ai Hoshino herself. So twist 1, our MC's obsession is pregnant. We then find out it's with twins. Okay, cool. Some more of the episode passes and we begin to see what this story is all about. Ai and her manager mention the fact that if this pregnancy ever gets out, the agency Ai is a part of will drop her, because the fan backlash would be too much, so that's the reason for this whole hiatus. You begin to get an understanding of the issues plaguing idol culture and the Japanese entertainment industry, partly being shown in the way our grown man MC idolizes this 16-year-old girl. Some time passes and it's about time for Ai to have her babies, which our Dr. MC will deliver. He steps out for a second and this creepy stalker dude shows up, asking him if Hoshino Ai is in the hospital. Our doctor then does some quick thinking and our stalker begins to run away. Dr. MC chases the stalker, and twist 2 ends up getting pushed off a cliff and dying. We then get a quick montage of Ai giving birth and begin to open our eyes to this new world, and twist 3, our Dr. MC was reincarnated as one of Ai's children. I swear it's been like 20 minutes. We now went from idol show to weird reincarnation story, and we still don't know where this plot's gonna go. The next part of the story I'm gonna go over quickly because I don't want to give a full episode recap, but we begin to see the life of our MC, who now goes by Hoshino Aquamarine, or Aqua for short, and he's now living his life being the secret child of a famous idol. It's here that I'd like to mention as well that the other twin, a girl named Ruby, is also the result of this reincarnation that has happened. This person who was reincarnated being the patient of the doctor that was a super fan of Ai. This is too many twists and mysteries. At this point, I'm over here thinking, okay, this is cool. We're gonna have a mystery story relating to how these people got reincarnated into this other life as children of the idol they love. Also, I'd like to point out that both kids don't know who the other person really is inside either, which makes it all the more interesting. Fast forward a bit and we get to the next portion of the story. Our babies are now around 4 years old, Aqua has begun acting, and Ruby begins to show her love of dancing and performing in what is a really emotional scene relating back to when she was sick. Again, not going to go into too much detail here because I think everyone who watched the episode knows how impactful this scene was, and those who haven't, I recommend you go watch the episode versus relying on this very poor recap of the story. The next important scene I'd like to highlight is this scene of Ai in a phone booth talking to the father of these twins, who up until this point hasn't been in the picture at all. She begins telling him all the great things about the twins and wants him to at least see them once. Again, some more time passes and we get into this scene where Ai is playing with the kids and they get a knock at the door. Who opens the door but none other than the stalker from early on in the episode. He then proceeds to stab Ai in the stomach and she dies. This scene broke me. I won't go into too much of the dialogue or details of the scene because it is one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in any anime or any show really I've seen in a while. At this point, I'm not too sure where our story will go. Our main character, well, the main character is actually the doctor slash Aqua, but still, the main idol slash center of the story is dead, and we're still on episode 1. Aqua then begins to piece a few things together, questioning how this stalker even got to the apartment they were staying at, and realizes this is realistically the doing of their father. So now we have a murder mystery revenge plot on our hands, and episode 1, or the prologue, ends. I wanted to talk about this or sort of chat about all of this because I believe that Oshinoko gave us one of the best introductions to an anime I've seen in a while. I feel if they took any less time than they did, the story wouldn't hit as hard as it did. Like I mentioned earlier, the first 20 or so minutes of the episode, I honestly wasn't all that into it with all the creepy doctor, idol, fan stuff and everything. If that was a regular 20-minute episode, myself and likely a lot of others would not feel any way about the story and wouldn't continue on from this point. Having this episode be an hour and a half was the perfect way to get people invested in the story versus getting to this point 3 episodes in where there'd likely be some sort of drop off and then people wouldn't really be invested in the story moving forward should those 20 minutes have been episode 1. We're now 3 full episodes in and I can feel the story evolving more and more, getting me more and more invested in these characters and the plot, and I'm really excited to see where it unfolds. There wasn't really much of a point to this video, I just wanted to use it to let people know to watch Oshinoko if you haven't already, at least episode 1. It is quite long, but if you aren't sold on it by the time it ends, I'd feel confident saying it's not for you. But I know I'm going to keep watching, and if there are any more twists or points of discussion I'd like to have, I'll likely make another video on this series further down that I'm currently all the way invested in.